I differ my opinion, and it may be because I have worked for a different faction of the government. I appreciate everything that our veterans have done for us. I had a much easier job. I worked for the Board of Education, and I do see the need for regulation. In fact, without regulation, we know what has happened to our nation. It's important to have rules and regulations. And when you break those rules, I have seen some very bad things happen when people didn't follow the regulations. Or I have seen very bad things happen when there were no regulations. So I believe in regulations. I think it's important to have rules. As a family, you've got to have rules. As a government, you have to have rules. John was talking about his rule. He did have rules with the government, and you couldn't have a soldier going AWOL. That was a rule. It's understandable. With finances, it's important to have regulations. If we had not had regulations at the Board of Education, we could have roofed a building with the money that was intended to buy school books, and therefore it wouldn't have served its purpose. So I'm not so hard on regulations. I've seen where regulations are very useful, and keeps us financially where we're not taking advantage of the money, and the money is, you have to be creative. When you're in charge of money, you have a set of rules, but nothing stops you from using your mind and making that money work for the purpose that it's intended for. For instance, technology and money. There's all kinds of things you can do with technology.
Okay, thank you. Kathy?
Well, I guess we all agree on one thing, that ultimately our rights come from God. And I'm a firm believer in prayer, and I'm a firm believer in praying, and I ask for guidance in everything I do. And most of the time I get an answer. And that's what leads me personally as to the decisions I make. I also served in the military and very proud of my service. My father served in Vietnam. He retired from the Army. My brother, who I say is my hero, we both joined the military right out of high school, and he stayed in, and he actually just retired 3 years ago as Command Sergeant Major, the highest rank in the Army. And I just, you know, I say he was a real soldier. I mean, he was one of these no man left behind. He actually re-enlisted when his time was up because his unit had been called overseas, and he said, "I'm not going to let my men go without me." So he fought for the freedoms we have. And I think our veterans are great. I get choked up about it. I'm a member of the American Legion, and that's part of the principles of the American Legion, is upholding the rights and the freedoms of the citizens of this country. And every meeting we have a moment of silence for the fallen veterans that have fallen in the past month. And last month there was 53 veterans that fell, young men and women for our country. So, you know, people fight hard for the freedoms we have, and I think we need to look out for those freedoms. But I do agree with Karen on a couple of items. When I worked for the planning department, I found that there was a saying we had that was "not in my backyard." And what I find is everybody wants to be able to do what they want to do, but they don't want their neighbor to be able to do what they want to do. Because if it infringes on my rights, I think it's wrong. So that's kind of the way people look at things, but you've got to have certain rules and regulations to protect people's rights. So I do believe in regulations to a certain point. And, you know, if we did have law enforcement, it was like the Wild Wild West days with my husband. He would love that because, you know, just shoot them first and ask questions later. But, you know, if everybody's going around carrying guns in this day and age, I mean, what shape would we be in? So there are certain things that we do need, and we do need to regulate, and we do need to have laws. But there's certain other things that government should not be involved in. I once told somebody, they were asking me about my opinion on some laws and stuff, and I said, well, read the Bible, because a lot of the laws are already written there. We don't need to be infringing on laws that are already written.
Thank you. Next question. Do I see one from the audience? Dennis, you've had one. Anybody else? Yes.
Yes, my question is, how do each of the commissioners define good debt versus bad debt? And then a follow-up on that, what would be an example of good debt versus bad debt?
Okay, thank you. The question is, what is good debt and what is bad debt, and what do you distinguish between the two of them? And the question goes to you, John.
Good debt and bad debt. What I define as good debt is a investment in the community. One obvious one, it's a no-brainer, education. That would be an example of good debt. Now I'm going to turn it right around and say it can be bad debt. If we build a Taj Mahal, then we are spending money on a building that is not going to provide what we need. So good debt, I would very simply say, would be an educational facility that will get the job done in the most efficient manner. Now, why does he say that? I watched my mother for 46 years. We went to school with her every morning. She drove us to school, never rode a school bus. We were there. And she would get there about 6:45, 7 o'clock every morning. So I got to see. I have yet to see a building teach a student. If you don't believe me, put your students in that building, leave the teachers out, and see how much they learn. You may come back, it may not be a building, and they aren't going to learn that much. So, good debt. Give them a facility, give them the resources, and then pay a teacher that can teach. That's part of the problem that we've got right now. If you go onto a college campus, and I would go over, you go to Wilmington, the college in Wilmington, I can't remember the name, UNCW, and if you want to know the teachers, you can pick them out. They're drawing postcards under the trees. The lowest ratings in scholastic aptitude go into the teaching profession. You can have a PhD, and if they cannot take that information that is in their head and present it to a student in a manner that they can understand, it does no good. It's well known that 10% of the population, bar none, if you go to Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, they will tell you 10% of the population is addicted. That means 10% of our teachers are addicted. But we don't drug test or test for alcohol with our teachers. That's bad debt. You build a Taj Mahal, you put the teachers in, you don't check them, and you borrow the money to do that. That's an example of bad debt. Or if you build something that, I'll give you a classic example. Average building lifespan is 30 years. So we have borrowed money on a 40-year mortgage and built a school. School's going to be down before we even get it paid off.
Thank you. Larry?
Good debt, I'd say it's build a new school, and then, like John said there, 30 years, but you have to keep the maintenance up on it, and it'll last a lot longer. And a bad debt would be where you put money in something where you know you're not going to get your money back anyway.
Karen?
Define good versus bad debt. I'm glad you asked that question. Our debt right now was $9.3 million, and all but two of those debt, or those projects, are real low interest rates. And some of them are set up where you have to have a 40-year debt set up, because that's the requirement to receive the grant from I can't think of the name of the agency, but I've worked with them with the Board of Education. If you want this grant for so many $100,000, part of the agreement is you have got to take the 40-year debt. Well, the plan is to take this 40-year debt, which is like 4, 5, 6%, I can't remember what it is, and refinance over 15 years, and they're planning to do that. And then they're expecting the interest rate to decrease to 2 or below. So $7 million of our $9.3 million is for the school system, which I think is a great debt. And what they borrowed money for the other night, I understand, is they bought a new ambulance, and they also bought or approved money for a new loader at the landfill. Well, I have to ask, what are our alternatives? If we don't buy the landfill loader, where are we gonna have a mountain of trash? We gotta have a solution, so I'm sort of thinking that might be a good debt. I don't really want a pile of mess over there at the dump when I go take my trash. And the ambulance, I really want them to be able to come and get me if I need help, or if my family members or my friends need help. I really don't want them on the side of the road because their ambulance is not functional. I don't believe in spending money unwisely, though. I've got 30 seconds. I am from Tam Gamble. He knows how to save a dime. And worked for John Woodruff. And these folks don't spend money unreasonably. They pinched a penny and made it work, and they used it wisely. And in the end result, I can attest, they got more than their money's worth from their investment.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
Kathy?
go on and on and on about
You
that.
got to thank you.
Kathy, your turn.
Okay. Well, good debt and bad debt. I feel that good debt is something that is an essential necessity, essential to the county, whether it be health, safety, or essential services that we provide for our citizens. But I think we need to look at other things before we go into debt. Are there other ways to pay for a project? That should be the last resort, is to take out a loan or to go into debt. Also, sometimes I question some of the things I hear about how much research was really done, like getting an estimate for a project, and I hear figures because I worked for Virginia Department of Transportation for 18 years, and that's what I did. I did cost estimates for large federal road projects, and sometimes I hear figures, and I'm thinking, is that really right? Is that really what that's costing? Can it be, especially engineering fees, having worked in the engineering field. I just think, was it really researched, or is there a company out there because the county's used them before, they just go ahead and use them because they think they're reputable and they might have gotten a better price, if they had took more time to do it. So I think you need to really research things, you need to really take the time to get the best deal that you can. But I don't feel that we should be spending money just for the sake of spending it. It needs to be a necessary, something that we definitely need. And I agree that education is very important. money that's been spent on those buildings. I mean, if you've got a building and the bricks are falling down, hitting people in the head, I mean, you're talking about liability, you're talking about injured children. Those are necessary repairs that need to be made. So those are the things I look at when looking at whether to you know, take out a loan against the money, and whether it's necessary or it's just a want. You know, at your own family budget, you got your needs, you got your wants. And so you might want a brand new car, but you don't really need it. You've got this old, I always say, it doesn't get you where you want to go. If it gets you where you want to go, then it's better to have that car that's paid for and drive till it won't run anymore than just because your neighbor just bought a brand new Cadillac, you think you need to have one too. So I think you should run the county the same way you run your household. And don't spend money you don't have to spend, and look at what you're spending before you spend it.
Thank you. Gene?
I think there's a definite correlation between good debt and bad debt, and wants and needs. I consider a good debt a need. I consider a bad debt a want. And as Kathy was talking, you know, if when I was in the poultry business, which I was for the last 19 years, I satisfied a lot of my wants at times, because when I got to working for myself, I became more successful than I was when I was working for somebody else. I saw that I could make it, and I did. I satisfied a lot of my wants. But they were wants. They weren't necessarily needs. And there is a difference. When you're looking at a county, particularly here in Alleghany County, we're looking at a county where the vast majority of this population is hurting. They're hurting economically. So what have our commissioners done for the last 2 years to help this? A 2-cent tax increase each time. Basically for wants, not needs. And I say that because there was enough outstanding back taxes which nobody bothered to do anything about it, to John Irwin and I began to look into this back in March and April of this year. And finally we got some people back on the rolls paying taxes. But there was enough money in back taxes to take care of the monies that the commissioner said they needed to give to the hospital and to the ambulance. There was enough money to have bought the equipment that they bought at the landfill without having to borrow any money, if they had not neglected their duties over the years and had kept up with these back taxes. Our problem in this county is not the income, it's the outgo. Now, with the money they spent on the loader out there, you know, you can buy a Cadillac or you can buy a Chevrolet. And they bought a fine loader. But you can buy reconditioned equipment with guarantees. What I'm saying is, we don't have to have the very best. We need something that will suit and take care of what we got. But you know, if you can afford a Cadillac or a Mercedes, that's great. But if you can't, it's a big mistake when you do buy one. And ultimately, you suffer down the road.
Okay, thank you. The next question, and probably the last question, is mine. And my question is, and beginning with Larry and working the way back up again, is this: what is your vision of Alleghany County in 5 years' time, in 2017?
Well, I hope that we've got more jobs, and I hope, like the town here, I hope they've grown a little. But that's the biggest thing. I just hope we've got more jobs than what we have now.
Okay, thank you. Karen?
Vision of Alleghany County in 2017. given it some thought. That's why I saw that sign in Mount Airy this weekend. Thank you for shopping in Mount Airy. I was in a meeting with a person that lives in this county a couple months ago that she has been defined as one of the largest resources for grants and commerce in North Carolina. We have the smartest people here. We've got a great work ethic. We've got to come together and collaborate and network, cooperate. I think if we do that, we can do a lot of things and do it well and do it better than our neighbors, or as well as some of our neighbors. They're doing a great job down below the mountain in some of our surrounding counties. The North Carolina Blue Ridge Parkway has 20 million visitors, and we don't tap it near enough. We don't tap it at all. In fact, I think with some marketing, some direct marketing, we can touch some of those people and get some of those folks into Sparta. I have some other ideas that I don't really want to discuss, but I have some vision, but it would take a lot of networking and working together to get them done. The Miles Job Fund is just one example. I worked for DW on the Miles Job Fund. I volunteer for that. I also worked for him a little bit, and I also worked for Tom Burgess. These two men are great businessmen. They have vision. It's hard sometimes for me to see something, to have that vision. But once I have that vision, I will work hard to attain it. These two men and I've worked for 6 superintendents, and most all of them were great people with vision. If you can find someone like these folks with the vision and work together, get committees together and work toward creating great and wonderful things for Alleghany County, we can do it. Tom Burgess has this little business out there that I'm just amazed that the UPS truck and the FedEx truck comes out there. It's like a major highway. And it's a simple idea that he came up with. It's just simple things, but we have to put our back to it. We've got to work hard. DW has 350 employees.
Okay, thank you.
With his developments.
Kathy?
Well, I've always, kind of had a vision, and kind of a dreamer, I guess you could say. But I try to look for positive in everything day to day, and there's a lot of negativity out there, number one. And one of the things I see is it amazes me the people that don't really know what's going on. The amount of activities that were going on this summer, free activities and organizations that were putting on activities and trying to bring people into Sparta and give them something to do with their family, and anything that goes on, like the Music in the Park series that was put on through the Chamber and the Merchants and the SRC. Free music in the park every Saturday to get people to come into Sparta and hopefully shop at our local businesses. Agritourism, a big thing. I went to numerous workshops on entrepreneurship and agritourism, and I went to one last year, and the whole thing was about promoting agritourism and farming and everything in North Carolina. And the running joke was, what does the seal of North Carolina say? The farmer is exempt. And it amazed me the things I learned. And one thing I learned is if you have a farm in North Carolina, and it's a beautiful venue, you have an old barn, which seems to be the fad for events and weddings and things right now, that you fall under agritourism. As long as in your literature or your advertising for that farm, you tell something about the history of that farm and what it was, even if it's not an operational farm anymore, and you're considered agritourism. So you get a lot of exemptions as far as business goes. you know, that you would otherwise have to follow under rules and regulations. So I think that's something that really, really can be built on here in the county, is take what we have, use what we have, promote tourism. I think listen to other people's ideas. I have this theory that, you know, no bad idea, you know, no idea is bad. Listen to what it is. You know, it might turn out to be the greatest idea anybody ever had. So we need to look at everything we have, and we need to work together, number one, to make those visions a reality, and really be positive about our, you know, if you meet friendly people when you come here, if you meet somebody that greets you and is excited, they'll come back. They don't want to see a droopy face and somebody, oh, you don't come here for it. So I think we need to be positive, and we need to work together, and we need to communicate and market. That marketing is a big thing. Get the word out of how great we really are.
Gene?
Buzz. I didn't even get started.
We'll make him start over again.
I've had a very clear vision for quite a while. Now, granted, all visions don't always come true, but I've rode around up here in this county a lot, even before I moved up here. As a matter of fact, my wife and I kept up with it. We drove 26,700 miles in 3.5 years, looking for a place to locate in either in Alleghany County or Grayson County. Now, granted, 33.5 of those miles is coming up, and 33.5 of them is going back. But we used a marker, and we would mark the roads as we rode over them. And there's two things that stood out to me up here. One was pumpkins. Now, you may call them pumpkins. Pumpkin is Alleghany for pumpkins. It's easier to say anyway. And Christmas trees. Now, I don't mind telling you, I'm fascinated with Christmas trees. There is no reason in the world with the Christmas tree industry that we have in this county that Sparta could not be Christmas Town, USA, 365 days a year. Now, yes, they have a Christmas in July festival at Jefferson, but they're capitalizing on an industry that they've got over there. Why have we never bothered to capitalize on the Christmas tree industry? Now, you know, some people say, well, you know, this, that, and the other. It sounds better than Pumpkin Town, USA. Anyway, but when you ride around and look, that's what we've got up here. Why not capitalize on it? You know, people buy Christmas decoration and stuff months other than December, than November. We could have shops with all kind of Christmas or handmade ornaments, because we live in a county that people can do things with their hand. They're very adept at doing things, making things, creating things out of wood, out of other things. And as far as the Christmas tree industry, there is one group here in this county that will make and sell between 3 and 4 million wreaths this year. Now think about that. That's just one firm. But look at the other people who are making it in smaller quantities. Why don't we capitalize on what, when people drive through this county, they see Christmas, I don't care what road you get on, you're going to see Christmas trees. Christmas trees. That and the water thing have been two of my visions. And I related the water thing to you a while ago. I really think that we could have a water co-op where we would involve many people. Yes, there's rules and regulations, and I realize we do have to have some rules and regulations. I do not believe that we have to regulate ourselves to death. We've regulated a lot of small businesses out of business. But I believe the Christmas trees and the water are two things that we could capitalize on. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
Let's look at 2017. Let's dream a little bit. Let's bring everything that we have outside of the city limits into the city limits. Are you aware that we have a gun maker in this county that is internationally known? Wouldn't it be nice for him to set a shop up so that his customers could come to Sparta, have a meal at a diner? Little shop right there in town. How many potteries do we have that if you want to go and see their products, You have to drive out in the country and hope to God you don't get lost to see their products. Bring them into town and revitalize. Hunting and fishing. I never did that much hunting while I was on active service. Imagine that, go into the woods with a gun on a weekend and try and shoot something. But I went to Canada one year because I said I was going to go hunting with a buddy of mine that's got more money and brains. And I spent a lot of money. And we have hunting and fishing here in this county that we could develop. We've got to change our way of thinking. We've got to change our paradigm. We have a winery in the county. And you can't sit on the sidewalk in Sparta and drink a beer or a glass of wine. You've got to go inside like you're ashamed. Well, and we want tourists to come up here? The only place you can legally buy a mixed drink is Roaring Gap. People think there's only one incorporated town in Alleghany County. There's two. Roaring Gap Incorporated so that they could have liquor by the drink out there. And we won't do it here. If we can bring our crafts, the expertise, the artistic ability of our people into this town and showcase it, then everyone will see what we have here. Good people, good environment, a great place to raise your kids, a school system that can teach them so that they are ready whenever they go out into the world. It's going to change. We've got to change the paradigm to do it, but it is possible, and you've got to have a vision, and you will never get there until we take our first step. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to wind our forum up tonight with an opportunity for each of our candidates to take 2 minutes and to make whatever comments that they would like to make. And I'm going to begin that, and I'm going to reverse the order on it, and I'm going to ask John if he would start.
Very well. Very simple. The longest journey starts with the first step. For too long, there's been a few that has run this county. They made the decisions that moved Interstate 77 out of this county. They made the decisions that moved Interstate 74 out of this county. They made the decisions to burn the railroad in the 20s whenever it was going to be the Alleghany Railroad, bringing passengers up to Roaring Gap whenever it first started. We have a group of people with small visions that have what they have, and they don't want anybody else to get what they've got. Well, too many days I watched my father walk across that road to the Northwestern Bank and borrow money to make payroll. He worked hard all of his life, 60 hours a week, 6 days a week, and we ran the wrecker at night. It takes vision. We've got to get it done. We cannot have this I've got mine mentality. We've got to put a shoulder to the wheel and work together. And some of these things that we have done that may not have been so wise in the past, we can't do them anymore. We cannot tax our way into prosperity. We cannot do that. Whenever I started looking at the taxes, I went down and I looked at the payment agreements. Whenever I brought the issue up, we had $1 million in back taxes. Now it's about half that. And it starts, the large part, in 2008. We've got over $500,000 in back taxes starting in 2008, working up to 2011. That is whenever we started going into these economic difficulties. The last thing we need to do is to tax people.
Thank you. Gene?
As I said earlier, I've got a very clear vision of this county. And I also have a very clear vision of how the government should be working here in this county, and it is not. Our county government has been oppressive, for the most part, for the last number of years. And they tend to not want to hear people tell them that they're wrong. And I mean, nobody likes criticism, but you know, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. If you do anything at all, you're going to make mistakes. The only people that do not make mistakes have headstones. So if you're going to do something, it's not always going to work at all. Sometimes you're going to make a mistake. But you learn by your mistakes. You don't learn by doing this. You don't learn that by telling people to sit down, they're through, you don't want to hear them. That's not government. Government is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And your government, not the commissioner's government. As a commissioner, I am working for you. You're not working for me. But you're basically working for the commissioners you have down there with all this taxation and everything goes on. I have said it, I don't know how many times, and I'm going to say it again tonight. No, I will not support any increase in taxes. Not on a county that has got the problems that we have. No increases in taxes. It's not the taxes. We're bringing in plenty of money. It's the way it's being spent. And I am appalled at the way it's being spent. Thank you.
Kathy?
First of all, I'd like to say that as a county commissioner, I work hard every day. I started working when I was 14 years old, as soon as I could get my working papers, and I've been working ever since, except right now I'm unemployed, but I still work every day. I do volunteer work, and everything I do, I work hard at it, whether I'm paid for it or I'm not paid for it. Serve on numerous committees for the vision of this county, the SRC, the merchants, member of the chamber, and try to attend every event I can. And like I said, there's so many things going on that people don't realize that it's hard. It's hard to get to everything that you want to get to sometimes. You have to pick and choose. And I feel as a county commissioner, that's one thing you need to do, is you need to be out there in the community, talking to the people, supporting the things that are going on. I'm amazed at the events I go to that I see no elected officials at, and I'm thinking, where are they? And it's time and time and time again. And I think that's part of your responsibility as an elected official, is to be out with the people, because the people are the ones that elected you. The people are the ones that you're representing. The people are the ones that are paying you to do this job for them. And therefore, I feel you need to be out with the people to know what's going on. And you need to be responsible, and you need to be prepared. And one thing I saw a lot of in previous years was commissioners not being prepared for meetings and voting on things that they had not researched. And at times it became an actual circus. And I was just thinking, you know, what is going on? So you need to research what's going on. You need to be prepared. You need to ask intelligent questions, and then you need to be able to vote intelligently on what's best for the citizens of the county.
Thank you. Karen?
I've been told I have a lot of energy, and I believe I do. I have positive energy. I don't work real well with negative things going on around me. I can work with most anybody, any kind of personality. I can make good things happen. I'm a great mediator. I'm the middle child in my family. So I think Richard Doughton said, if you don't tooteth your own horn, you don't get your horn toothed. It's weird to stand up here or sit up here and talk about myself, but I don't think that our county is going to hell in a handbasket. I think our county is a wonderful place. One other vision that I have is I would really like to see us do more education after high school. Job training is important. If you're going to have jobs, you're going to have a trained, skilled workforce. And I think we've let that slide. We have to focus on it and push it, and it's important. It's important to have a positive outlook and a positive energy to go forth to make great things happen. And I do believe in inclusiveness, and I will work hard for your money. I am a very conservative person, but I don't think that you can make progress on no money. You have to have some money. Any business is going to have some money, and the county is definitely a business. You have to have money to make money and to prosper. And I certainly want to be your county commissioner, and I want to work for you, and I will do my best.
Thank you. Larry?
As former county employee, I've seen money spent well, and I've seen money sort of, you know, out in left field. But I think I'd be able to make good decisions on how to save money, spend it well.
Thank you. That ends our forum for this evening, and I'd like to say thank you to our candidates for all being here and taking this evening to share with us. And the library has refreshments available out in the library itself, and so we'd invite everybody to come join us for some refreshments.
Thank you.